Good day. I'm excited to bring you another episode of Conversations with the Clerk. I am your Circuit Court Clerk of Nashville and Davidson County, and I'm also your Probate Court Clerk of Nashville and Davidson County. And I'm excited to have Amy Bryant with me today from the Office of Conservatorship Management. And we want to bring you some valuable information regarding what the Office of Conservatorship Management does and the great work that she's doing for the citizens of Nashville and Davidson County. Amy, I know a little bit about you. I know you're from Memphis. I know you're a TSU alum.
Yes.
So just tell us a little bit about you and where, like I said, how you got started, what you do, and just a little bit about yourself.
All right. As you said, I'm from Memphis, born and raised there, a graduate of Overton High School.
Okay.
So that's the performing arts high school there.
In
So
Memphis,
I played the
okay.
violin for about 20 years.
Oh my.
Yeah. And so I matriculated to TSU for undergrad and then St. Louis U for law school. I'm married and I have 4 children. And so I have been a lawyer since 2007. So quite a while. Aside from that, I like biking, staying active, cooking. So I do a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So from Memphis to Nashville, TSU. And so what was your major at TSU?
So I started out as a business administration major in real estate. My dad owns a real estate company, so I wanted to do that. But after I got my real estate license freshman year, I said, I like law. You have to study law in order to get your real estate license. And I never wanted to be a lawyer, but I said, I think I like this law thing. I'm gonna go to law school. So I changed my major to econ and finance.
Okay.
Since I heard that was a good major for law school. I didn't know. I didn't know any lawyers. And so that's what my major ended up being, economics and finance.
Okay.
And I went on to law school.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's good. So when I started this series, I wanted it to be informative of, as a public servant, of the services that are available to the citizens and just bring a light to the organizations and some of the, like I said, the services that are provided to them and just expound on them to be informative. And so this series, as far as this episode, conservatorships, the Office of Conservatorship Management, just tell me a little bit about that. Like when we say conservatorship, I'm sure our viewers, I would say maybe 10% of our viewers may know what a conservatorship is. Sometimes, as we discussed, it may be something of a celebrity that it's a public one that people follow along with. So just expound on that. What is a conservatorship? And then we'll go into the Office of Conservatorship Management. And I think it's very unique here in Davidson County and just a little bit of history about that and how that got started.
Gotcha. So a conservatorship is an arrangement by the court where the court appoints one adult to make decisions for another adult. So very similar to a power of attorney where you would decide who your decision maker is. However, it's a power of attorney on steroids. And that's because the judge has to order it. And then once that's ordered, those rights are removed from the individual. So that's why it's so important to make sure that the conservatorship is explored after any other decision-making options have been explored, because the rights of that individual are stripped away from them and given to somebody else.
And so this is done by the court.
This is done by the court. And so there are people within the community that mistakenly think that they have conservatorship for an individual when they have a power of attorney that's been signed, but you have to go to court in order to get the conservatorship.
Gotcha.
And then so conservatorships typically serve individuals who are either born with disabilities like Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or some sort of autism where they are low functioning, but also people who are elderly. And then individuals who sustain traumatic brain injury, strokes, or something from like a car accident where they're unable to make decisions for a period of time. The average age of a person under conservatorship in Davidson County is 55. And so I know a lot of people think it's for elderly people, but 55 is the average age of a person under conservatorship in Davidson County.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So that piece as far as conservator, so the court will appoint someone to be conservator, like who can serve as a conservator? I know they're filed with our probate clerk's office, that petition, but just talk a little bit about how that process comes about.
Gotcha. So it's a really good idea for people to understand the process. So a petition has to be filed with the court. And typically that would be done with a lawyer. However, there are people who figure out how to file it on a pro se basis. There are no forms in the state of Tennessee, so if someone figures it out, they've figured it out from the internet, I suppose, or got a lawyer to help them. And then after that petition is filed, it's set for a hearing with the court. It's important to note that anyone can file a petition for conservatorship. You can file a petition for conservatorship for me today if you wanted to.
Wow.
So any person can file it. And so if you know of a person who may need it or someone who may need to be helped, sometimes that happens too. And then a court hearing is set, and then a hearing is held to determine if a person has an incapacity or a disability that renders them unable to make decisions. And so that's very important because some people think that you can have a conservatorship from just having a disability. Having a disability alone does not qualify you for a conservatorship. You have to have an inability to make decisions for yourself in a number of ways. And then the court will decide which powers are given to the conservator and what rights are removed from the individual. And so a big one that's important to elected officials like yourself is the right to vote. And so the right to vote can be taken away, but routinely it's not taken away.
That's the interesting fact, just that, these decisions or whatnot will be listed in the, and how that falls as specifically the right to vote or, different things that you would think. And then it's very interesting also that you talked about the average is about 55, but you think of it as to be something that's just for the elderly.
A lot of people do, A lot of people do.
So I know in my, with dementia and things like that comes in, it's just a power of attorney. It's just a big situation to where you think that, well, I have power of attorney, how does this work, versus a court ordering it, and how do you get it? And that's why I wanted to bring a light to it. So talk to me a little bit about the Office of Conservatorship Management. How did this come about? And how did you get started in this field to become the director?
Okay, so that's two loaded questions. So the first one, it's kind of a sad story with the Office of Conservatorship Management. Back in 2012, 2013, there was a lawyer who stole $1.3 million from the people he was charged with being conservator for, and he's been charged and has a sentence. And so Judge Kennedy, who was the probate court at the time, he put together a task force to determine what we can do to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And so that task force recommended an office to be created. Originally, that office was going to serve as a conservator, and then we could talk about who serves as conservators. But ultimately, the office was put together as an additional layer of oversight for conservatorships within Nashville. And so the office was put together in 2014, and that was due to the Metro Council approved the office and provided funding to the state trial courts for the office to exist. And we've been around 10 years now. The office has been around 10 years. And so the office provides additional layer of oversight. So the first layer of oversight is you guys. You all receive all the pleadings in, review those pleadings, and then, pass whatever information along to the court as you all see fit to do that. And so we will review the documents that are filed with the court. But in addition to that, the judges gave us the authority to do welfare visits, do financial reviews, and then provide information to the public to assist them with their fiduciary responsibilities. And so we do education and provide a wealth of information for the individuals to be able to manage their affairs accordingly. So that's how the office was put in place. So that's thanks to Metro Council and Judge Kennedy for putting that task force together.
And it's been funded and continues to grow? And it's been
continuously funded. Growth, yes. We started out with 2 employees, so now we have 3 full-time employees in the office. So it's myself, I'm the director and the lawyer for the office. We have an on-site CPA for the office, and then an on-site social worker for the office. But from its inception, we had a partnership with Metro Social Services. So there are about 12 workers with Metro Social Services who report to our office and help us with welfare visits.
Yeah, so I know I keep hitting you with rapid fire questions.
Oh, you're good.
It's just very interesting when you think about that and how the office, like you said, has grown, and you're working with the other Metro departments and the welfare check visits, the welfare review unit, and then the financial. So talk to me about that. You go out and, do welfare checks. It's something that you think about, like the Department of Human Services or Children's Services or going out. And so just
It's very similar to that. So on the financial side, we review all motions and petitions involving money on the conservatorship side. And then we also will review the information provided to you all, but we can request independent financial information. So you all review the information provided by the conservator. We can request the bank statements or the title company records or anything else to corroborate that information, because that was the reason that the malfeasance happened in the first place. The books were doctored. On the welfare side, yes, we go to the home of the individual wherever they are living. And we also review their medical records to make sure that that corresponds with what we see when we go out. And so we go to nursing homes, assisted living facilities. We go to Lois DeBerry, which is a special needs jail here. We'll go wherever they are, group homes, their home. And then we interview the conservator and the respondent if we can. We'll always see them, but we'll interview them if we can to talk to them. And then if we find concerns on either side, we file a report of the OCM with the court.
And that's what I was going to ask you.
Yes.
What was the oversight piece, and what is the resolution there as far as your duty in that piece?
Yeah. So if we find any concerns, and there could be different layers of concerns that we can find, we'll report that to the court. Prior to reporting it to the court, however, we try to be proactive. So we'll reach out to the conservator and let them know what we found and see if we can get that resolved prior to court action having to happen. Like, the courts are busy, you guys are busy. And so bringing the court in is typically a last resort unless the issue is egregious and there's nothing that we can do about it. There's no correction that needs to happen. Maybe APS, that's Adult Protective Services, may need to get involved, or the DA's office may need to get involved. They have an elder law lawyer there, or the police may need to get involved. So it really just depends. But we try to be proactive to give them the opportunity to fix their negligence. Usually that's what we would allow them to fix. If it's malfeasance, there's no sense in giving them a chance to fix that. That's something that needs to be brought to the court's attention. And then the court will set a hearing. I litigate those cases if there's a hearing set. And then we follow whatever the judge's orders are. So there are a number of things that can happen as a result of that hearing.
So that's pretty good to, work with, the clerk, your office, OCM, and the judge. So, and then you got social service on that end. And so it's all about, bringing those services and working. I think that efficiency is good, and have good working relationships.
Oh, there. For sure. Relationships are very important for our office. Our records are your records. So our database is populated from the information that you have. And so it's really good to have a working relationship with all 4 judges that do conservatorships now, your office, and a number of other agencies throughout the entire city. We have relationships with any agency pretty much that touches mental health or children with disabilities, and not young children. So I guess we can talk about guardianships and conservatorships, but children who are approaching the age of 18, so autism associations or Down syndrome associations, and anyone that we may need to have a relationship with in order to provide those resources to the public. We have done that over the course of the past 10 years.
Okay, and so how many, just on the average over the last year, how many welfare visits?
So we do 240 welfare visits a year now.
Okay.
Prior to bringing on the in-house social worker, we were doing about 10 a month, so 120. Our goal is 20 a month. And so we do 240, a little over last year. And so my goal ultimately is to have another social worker on staff so that we can do 360 of them a year. Like right now we have right at 2,800 conservatorships in Davidson County, and we haven't done a welfare visit for every person that has a conservatorship. And so it's my goal to at least do that. And so that would take a couple more years at the rate that we're going now. But if we had another person on staff, or when we have another person on staff.
Speak it into existence.
I know. We'll be able to do about 360 a year. And so they'll at least be able to have a welfare visit every couple years. So we're actually putting eyes on people on a regular, consistent basis.
Yeah, and looking at numbers as a keeper of the record, in 24 was 558, and then the previous year was around 452. So it seemed like it's increasing year over year, about 100 or so.
About 100 or so every year. And most of those are emergencies, so about 300 of them that come through our emergency conservatorships or expedited limited healthcare fiduciary cases.
Gotcha. And so, it's just interesting that that need was brought about and the council voted and it was established. And so as far as you being the director, or is it a term, or is it by the council that you're appointed? How does that process work?
Well, fortunately, my job is not an appointment. I was hired. I'm not an elected official. I report to state trial courts as opposed to the mayor. A lot of people ask me that. So I've had, I think, 3 mayors since I've been in this office. So fortunately, there's no turnover within the office with that. So we can keep the consistency there. I was hired in 2018, so I'm the second director for this office. So it's been right at 6.5 years. So it'll be 7 years in December. And we oversee all operations, all policy, anything that comes in and out of the office is pretty much under my charge. I collaborate with my staff because it makes sense to collaborate with my staff. We're in there doing it day in, day out. We also have committees. So there are advisory committees for our office. And those are lawyers and non-lawyers in the community that help put the office together. And so we'll talk about different education and resources, any policy changes, and there's a funding committee too, but we haven't figured out a way to get any independent funding for the office.
For the office.
Yeah.
So no grants or anything like that, it's just funded through
It's
the
just
budget.
funded strictly through Metro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. Well, thank you for all the great work that you're doing there.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
It's one of those things that when the light if you're never experienced anything like that until you need that service,
right?
Like, what do I do here? So talk to them a little bit about who can serve, how someone. I know the court appoints. Is this attorneys that are doing it? Is it tell me a little bit about how do you serve as a conservator?
Yeah, so anyone who is 18, not a felon, not on the sex abuse registry or the adult abuse registry, is eligible. And so there are no training requirements, and we can talk about training because I'd love to talk about that. And so those are the requirements for being a conservator. In Davidson County, it's mostly family and members and friends who serve as a conservator. So you have a lot of parents of children, you have a lot of children of adult parents, you have spouses, and sometimes friends will serve if the individual doesn't have someone else. But then you also have lawyers. If the person doesn't have anyone to serve and they don't qualify for the public guardian, then a lawyer is usually appointed by the court, or an agency is appointed by the court. And so in Tennessee, we have 9 public guardian offices. So Davidson County falls under Greater Nashville Regional Council. And if you qualify for the public guardian, and there are financial requirements and age requirements, then the public guardian can be appointed if you don't have friends or family members. And so that's what the government has put in place for people who need oversight. But then if you don't qualify for that, there is an independent conservator panel that we have here. And so that's made up of lawyers, non-lawyers, and agencies. Most of those agencies are nonprofit organizations that have been set up to provide this type of service for individuals. Outside of Tennessee, I will make note that there are professional guardians and conservators in other states. It's not something that we really have here, which is pretty good since we don't have training requirements here to really oversee them. But that does happen in some other places where you have people that's their job. Here in Davidson County, we have about 2 or 3 people who do this as their job. Like they were former social workers or CPAs, and now they have these organizations they've created to take it on as their job. But the majority of people with conservatorships are friends and family members. By statute, your power of attorney designee that you in your power of attorney, you can designate someone as your conservator. The court will look to that first, and then it's a hierarchy of family members. Your spouse, your children, or your parents, and it'll go down from there.
Okay, and so is it a limit on what you can, how many, if you're a conservator on this, is it a limit to that, and are they compensated from a state or something? How does that work?
Yeah, so it really just depends on if a person's going to be paid or not. If the respondent's estate has funds to pay, that's typically how the conservator is paid. Most friends and family members do not charge for being conservators. However, if the person receives benefits from TennCare, then they can be paid through TennCare if they're in a nursing facility. There are also other organizations, and by organizations I mean state departments, that may pay a conservator too through their funds. Otherwise, a person has to file with the court a motion to have conservatorship fees approved, and then if there's finances to pay it, then that's paid.
That's paid.
For those organizations that are conservators, however, they usually have a state contract or a contract with some organization in order to be paid. So there are a couple that are paid through the Department of Disability and Aging or the Department of Mental Health or Middle Tennessee Mental Health. They all have contracts, so that money is not coming from the respondent's estate. That's coming from those contracts. However, all conservators must have approval for their fees. And so that is something that's filed with you guys. And then the hearing is held. And that's to give notice to everyone to make sure that everyone's on the up and up as it relates to fees.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so what about, like you said, the court orders this, if something changes, do you see that a lot where they want to modify and, you know, they took away these rights and saying, well, this, or someone's serving and then, hey, this is not working, or you find something and say, you know, we need to find somebody else on their recommendation. So you see a lot of that, or how does that process work?
We see quite a bit of that. So in Tennessee, under statute, if a person's under conservatorship and they would like a hearing on their disability, they can request that in any means based on the statute. So I imagine you see people coming in here wanting to do that on a pro se basis. They can call our office and we can file a report with the court letting them know that there may or may not need to be a modification. It really just depends. If an individual feels they've recovered, we ask them to fill out that report of physician form that you all have by their doctor saying that they no longer need it, and we can help get that set for a hearing so it could be terminated. Sometimes conservatorships are altered or modified so that they're less restrictive by the courts. I can't really give you a percentage of how often that happens, but it happens quite frequently. That something needs to be changed or expanded. A lot of our conservatorships are limited to medical only. And so if the person now needs help with decision making for, let's say, signing a lease or entering school or a number of other things, then the conservator comes back and asks the court for more authority to be able to help them in a more expansive manner.
Gotcha. And I know you spoke about training. You kind of lit up there. So
yes.
I know the website, which we'll list the website on this video, just how people can get in contact with the office. But talk to me a little bit about training and what that entails.
Right. So like I said, in Tennessee, we don't have any required training. So we created the first online training that's available for the entire state here at the Office of Conservatorship Management. It's called the OCM School. It's a free training. It has 5 videos and 5 quizzes. So if a person completes that, then they can show that they have limited knowledge about how conservatorships work and what their responsibilities are. And then they receive a certificate for completing the training. So that's free and that's online. We also have information online that's both in written form and audio form in both English and Spanish for individuals to gain a better understanding of what conservatorships are and what they should be doing. What I've found from sitting in this seat for the years that I have been here is that most issues arise out of just ignorance. It's mostly negligence. People are just unaware of what it is that they need to do. I imagine they're here asking you what they need to do too. And so we have a lot of education on our website. It's my goal to have mandatory training in Davidson County.
And I was going to talk to you about that. I said, because you're kind of spearheading that, like I said, for the state, but there's no requirement. So seems like that'll be something to push. And I think it's just better for everybody involved to, you know, not that it's going to cost you a fee or something, but go through this program and get the certificate.
Yeah. I got to get our judges on board. They do make people aware that the training is available. Like I said, there's no statute that requires that to be a conservator. And so I'm hoping that we can somehow implement that with a local rule or something like that, or just through the legislature requiring just a little bit of training for conservators.
Okay. And so also this piece may play a part in it. Talk to me about, I know you're the president of the Conservatorship Association of Tennessee. So talk to me a little bit about that organization and how they got started. And, you know, you've been president, so where do you see that going?
Gotcha. So the Conservatorship Association of Tennessee is a nonprofit membership organization that provides education and resources and collaboration for people who are conservators or people who are involved in the conservatorship process. So that could be judges, that could be clerks, that could be lawyers, and then friends and family members, and even law students. And so that organization has been around for a long time, way before my time.
Okay.
So I'm not exactly sure how it got started, but I imagine just based on how it operates, people came together because they needed an organization to share information. So it's a statewide organization that shares information across the state about conservatorships. And so that's the main goals and objectives of that organization. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So as we finish up our conversation with the clerk, is there anything, I know you talked about getting another worker there to assist and upping that number of visits and going forward, but anything else that you would like to see in the Office of Conservatorship Management or that you want everyone to know about the office?
So the one thing that I would like people to know is that this is the only office in the state of Tennessee. And so we get a lot of questions from around the entire state just about conservatorships in general, or even outside the state when people have questions about conservatorships in Tennessee. So my ultimate goal is for this office to be a blueprint for a statewide office. I think we need a statewide office. Other counties can benefit from it. I'm glad that we have it in our county and our constituents can benefit from it. But that would be a really good thing for the state of Tennessee, is to have a statewide office. And we already have a proven blueprint that can make it work.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and informing everyone. Another Conversations with the Clerk episode with Amy Bryant from the Office of Conservatorship Management, referred to as OCM. So that's the acronym for it. But stay tuned as we continue to bring you future episodes with Conversations of the Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.